Hi guys, today we're going to be discussing components, variants, and interactive components. So your components allow you to change the properties of an element used in multiple places in your design from one source. We're going to be discussing this. We're going to be discussing variants. Variants are basically different variations of your components, and we're going to be discussing interactive components. Interactive components helps you to add interaction to your design. You can see when I hover on these outline buttons, it changes. So we're going to be discussing these in details, and with the knowledge that we'll gather from our discussions of components, variants, and interactive components, we'll be designing this hero section of a website. When you hover on any of these images, you can see the background changes to that image, which is a cool, and it gives you this form of cool animation. So grab your seat and let's get started. From what we have here, these are all the components that have been created for this, right? So we're going to be learning how I was able to create all this and we were able to achieve all this. I mean, this design, the way it is here, you can see how cool it is, right? So I'm going to start from the basics for those that are just starting out in design. We know that I've actually explained what a component is. It helps you to change the properties of your element from also. So let's assume that I have this design. I have these designs now. Like for example, I'm coming. I have these designs, and maybe the client I created this design for asked me that, oh, please, can you kindly change this button color to probably red? So instead of me going through these designs and changing the buttons one by one or individually, I'll just come to the component element. That's the parent element for this button, because this is an instance. An instance of a component means that basically the baby of that element, you duplicated it, right? So what I will do is to just say, okay, no problem. I will just come to the parent component, right? And update the color. And once I do, it's going to update on across all the designs. So let's say I change it from this color to this. You can see the design had the color, the button color has updated across the design. You can see the way it just changed the color across the design. And she said, oh, I don't like the fact that the text is white. Can we make it dark or maybe gray or black? Then if you check the design, you notice that, oh, the buttons have been updated to this new color and it's kind of looking cool. So what you're going to do is to update this secondary button as well to this new color to fit. So I'm just going to update it, and you see when a user comes here now, you can see that the button has changed. And on our design, you can see that it has also updated here as well. So we're going to start from scratch. How do we create a component? We're going to start from the most basic element. So these are the buttons that I created when I was preparing this course, which are now the ones that have also componentized here. How do you create interactive elements? When we are starting out in design, most times people find a lot of things difficult. That maybe when you want to create some interactions, you have different different screens. Let's say we want a situation where a user, right? Let's use this button as an example and place this one here and also this one here. Want a situation where a user hovers on this particular button. Let's place it here. Want a situation where a user hovers on this button, it changes to this one. For you to achieve that before, you have to have multiple screens to do that. What if in a situation where you have 5 of these buttons, right? 5 of these buttons. It will require that you create also 5 additional screens. Let's start from 2 actually. Let's start from 2 and then we can bring it down to like check all those things. Now let's say we have we have this and want interactive. When it's like one element, it's usually okay. Man, it's no problem. I can actually duplicate the screen. So let's present this and then prototype it. So let's say when a user clicks on this, it changes to this. I mean, when a user hovers, let's use hovering, it changes to this, right? Let's see how it comes out. So when I hover on this, it changes to this. That's because I have a second screen here, changes to this. So what in a situation where we have this button in 5 places and we want it to have the same type of interaction as others. So we have like 5 of these buttons. Let me align them well properly. Yeah, so they have the same spacing now. It require that and once the situation where when you hover on this, it comes to this, right? When you hover on this, it comes to this. So let's duplicate this one as well. Let's copy and paste here and as well give them the same spacing. So when we hover on this, it comes to this one, right? Or let's start from beginning. Let's just turn it into auto layout. So if you don't know, if you don't have an idea of how auto layout works, I have a video on that you can check out in my on this channel. I have discussed auto layout in detail, so you can go and watch it to understand how auto layout works, but we're not going to go into that today. So when a user hovers on this is the interaction. When a user hovers on this, it comes to this one, right? That's the first one. Then the second one, when a user hovers on this, let's change our prototype, it comes to this screen. So we are going to have this button here. We're going to have this button, replace it with this. So to replace an element, you can press Control Shift R to replace the element. Then for the second one, you see how tedious is beginning to look, right? So when a user hovers on this one, it comes to this one. So we're going to change this one. Oh, we need to update this one because the user is not hovering on it. We need to update this one. And we need to update this as well. We need to update this as well and remove the interactions. Let's just use one type of interaction. When a user hovers on this, it comes to this one, right? The user hovers on this one, comes to this. When a user hovers on the third one, right? Okay, the third one, it comes to this. When a user hovers on the second one, it comes to this. When a user hovers on the first one, it comes to this. Then we duplicate it again for the third time. The fourth time, bring it to this, the fifth, whatever it is. So now we are on the fourth button, yeah? So I'm going to take this. Let's bring this down. Yeah, we're on the fourth button. So I think that's just basically what we'll be doing. Auto layer is already an auto layer, so we just move it down. That's it. So when a user hovers on, delete this. So when a user hovers on this one, it comes here, right? When a user hovers on this, on the fifth one, oh, sorry, let's duplicate so that we can put the interaction for the fifth one. Move it. So we duplicate it and then bring this one down, right? So when a user hovers on this fifth one, wants it to come here. You can see just because we want to create an interaction for this element, we're having like 6 different screens for just that, right? So we're going to remove all these ones, all these interactions here. We don't need it. We just want to use the first screen to do the interaction, right? But you can try out things to see how it's actually works. Just basically trying out things. So I'm just going to be fast about it. This, remove it. This, remove it. You're not going to have any interaction on any of these other screens, just the first screen and this one as well. So you can see the first screen. The first screen, the first button goes to this. The second button goes to this. The third button goes to this. The fourth button goes to this, and the fifth button goes to this. So let's present our screen and see how it comes out. So you can see when I hover on the first button, it changes to this. changes to this one that we have here. When I hover on the second button, when I hover on the third button, when I hover on the fifth button, the fourth button and the fifth button. Oh, it's not changing. The fifth button is not changing. The reason it's not changing is because on click, you want hover animation. So we hover on this. You can see. And there is actually a way to make this to just be on one screen. That's where component comes in, right? So we're going to start from scratch and create components. Then we create variants before we come to interactive components. So I'm just going to bring this and keep them here. So how do we create a component? We'll start from the smallest element. So let's say we want to use our button in multiple places in our design. Let's call it a button. Want to use it in multiple places in our design. What we'll do is I've typed the button as a text. I'm just going to add auto layout to it to give it a container. That's auto layout. So it has given it a container. I'm going to give the container a color. Let's choose this. Let's use this color. I think I like it. Let's use this color and then call it. Let's give it corner radius of probably 50. Just round it. Then padding left, you can do 30. Wow, we can do 32, right? Because this is an auto layout element, place it like constrain it to the center. Because this is an auto layout element and it's on hot content, I discuss auto layout in detail. So just take your time and go through the video, you understand. You can see it adjusts itself, right? But today we're focusing on this button element. So let's say we have this button, right? This is our button component. What we'll do is to create a component, just click once the element that you want to componentize is selected, just click on this and you have your component. How do you, so this component, this parent component, you're not going to be using it directly. You're going to create an instance of it. One of the ways you do that is to duplicate it. Just click, press down on Alt, right, and drag. That's if you're using Windows. If you're not using Windows, you can press down on Option, I think so, and then drag it. Another way is to come to your asset. Once you create an asset, you're going to see it. Let's rename this and call it test button, so that, because I've created something like that before. One of the ways to get an instance of your component is just to press down on Alt and drag it out just to duplicate it, or you just come to your asset and type the name of the component, and you can see this is our test button. You just drag it and put here. We now have instances of our button. So now let's say we use this button in multiple places. Let me get a frame. Let's say we use this button in multiple places in our design. Use the instance of the button multiple places in our design. Use it in multiple places. Our client comes tomorrow and tells us that, oh, I don't want this color. I want you to do something about it, or maybe make the text bolder and all those things. Instead of going through each and every of these buttons to change them individually, what you do is come to the parent element and then update the color, and it will update across all screens where you use that button. And let's say the client said that you should increase the width of the button. Just increase the width, and when you check the places you use the element, you can see that the width of the buttons have all been updated, right? According to the properties of the parent element. And let's say that the client said that, no, I want the text to be white, right? Just change the button text to white, and it will update across screen. So this is one of the beautiful thing about using components in your design. It helps to make your work easier and faster, thereby making you more efficient, right? In your design journey. It helps make your work more easy and fast. That's the beauty about component. What are in a situation, and one of the ways is that you might think that these screens are small, just 4 screens. What are in a situation where you have these buttons like 500 screens? How do you manage that, right? So this is one of the ways to make your work easier. Our next topic is variants. Right? Variants are different Your variants are different variations of your components. You can see we have this field button, we have the outline, we have this one with an image, we have the outline, I mean the secondary one button with also an icon. These are all variations of these particular buttons that we have here. These are the variations. You have the one with the outline button, you have the color, you have this one. What are in a situation where we want to have like different variations of this button that we have here? How we can do that now that you've created a component? There are two ways to create variants of an element, right? One of the ways is to select the element, and you can see this plus icon here. Just click on it and you create a variant for it. Once you go here, you can see variant too. And you want this variant to have like an outline. You don't want it to have color inside, fill inside. So you call this, let's say this is secondary. You can call it secondary. And you can call this one primary, right? And let's duplicate another one. Want another one with icon. You can call this one primary icon, right? There is a better way to do this, but let's try out this option first. Then you duplicate it again. You can call this one secondary secondary icon, right? Icon. Now let's start giving them the properties. So we have, can give this one stroke and remove the fill, right? And then change the button text to this color as well. So we have this secondary. Okay, let's call this one primary, and this is our secondary color. Then this one is our primary icon. Let's do the same for this one as well. Let's do this one same for this one. Give it stroke, remove the fill, and change the stroke color. Then update the text color as well. You can see the one I'm using color picker because I don't have any color style yet here. I'm just using the color picker to pick the colors random. So once I have an icon on this button, I want to have an icon here as well. I mean an icon here as well. So we have like the one that has a fill with an icon and the one that doesn't have a fill with an icon. So let's go to our icon library. You can use icon stacks. Let's get just a placeholder icon for it and then update the icons. So I'm just going to drag and drop an icon. Let's get this one. I'm just going to drop this icon here and move it to the right. And move it to the right, right? And change the color. And then copy the same icon and put here, move it to the right and give it the color of this as well. So we have like, these are just variations of this button. Let's say we don't want to use this button, this one that has fill with no what's it called? With no icon. Want to use the one that has an icon. What we do is just select the elements here. Just select the buttons because we already created an instance for it, and then select the one that has icon, primary icon. You can see if you go to our design, oh, I didn't present it. You can see that all the buttons have been updated to the one with icon. Let's say we don't want this one to have an icon. I mean, we don't have this one to have a fill. Can just change it to secondary icon, right? And we don't want this one to have an icon. Just change it to primary. So we've created different variations of these buttons, and we can then, or like, you can use them alternatively from one style to another. We've created different variations of the button, the same button, but we have different variations of it, which is cool. This is one way to create your variants when you already have like a component situation where you want your variants or maybe your buttons to have different properties, like you want them to have like colors. Like when you check this particular one, if you check this particular what's it called, component library, main button component that I have here, you can see the ones with blue colors, you can see the one with orange colors, you can see the one with purple. This one was originally purple, right? So I think I'm just going to, yeah, it was originally purple. Let me just update the color to reflect this, and as well this one, and yeah, and this text button to white. Yeah, so you can see if I take out this design now and you go to this button property here, you can see that it has three properties. It has color, it has button type, it has icon. So now let's try different properties for this color, different variations for this color. So you have the orange. I can change from orange to blue and back to purple. Let's say I don't want it's purple, but I don't want the primary version of the purple. I want the secondary changes to that. Now it's on secondary. I don't want the one with no icon. I want the one with an icon. You can see I can change it. You can see the way it's changing. It's just changing from that. That's because I've created variations of the button and I can change it to anyone I want from just one source. From just this one, I can change it to anyone I want. So how do we achieve that? Right? So let's create our button from scratch again. Let's call it button, right? I think we'll just do two different examples. Let's call it button and then give it an auto layout and give it a fill. Let's say fill of blue. No, sorry. Give it a fill, give it a fill and make it white and give it a fill of blue. Make the text white, the button text white. And let's say the padding left and right should be 10, I mean 32. And then let's say the corner radius will be maybe like 16. Yeah, maybe like 16. So we have this button now. From here, we can build our different variations. One of the ways to build it faster is to start naming your elements. First, want to have a button, right? The name of the element is a button, right? And another property we want to have there is like color, right? And another one is want the one that have no icon, right? And we want another one to have an icon, right? So these are different variations this is the name of the element, and these are the properties of the elements that we want to have. And this will help us to create variations of this button. So now let's start creating. So we have like button to give it a property, to give your button a property, use slash color and make sure when you're naming your elements, they have the same name, right? If you're using capital letter, use capital letter consistently across the naming. So you have no icon, no icon. Then okay. Oh, the color here, I wrote actually color. The color here is blue. Let's call this blue. We have no icon. Which other one? Then the button style. Yeah, the button style should be, this one is primary button. So we have the button style, which is this one. Then we want to duplicate it again. So now when we duplicate it, we want this one to be like a secondary version of this one. So we give it an outline, remove the fill, just like we did before, and remove change the color for this one. So since this one is secondary, we call it change. The only thing that we're going to change here is the secondary button, and then we duplicate it again because we want to have different colors. We want to have like 3 colors. So we change the color, we update the color. Let's update the color to maybe like yellow or maybe orange. Yeah, let's update the color to orange, the colors to orange. Now that we've updated the color, um, now the color here is, this one is primary, everything is correct, but the only thing that we need to update is the color. The property that we need to update is the color, which is orange, and the same thing with this one, call it orange, right? Call it orange. And then we duplicate this as well. Want variations that have icons and variations that don't have icons. So let's just borrow this icon from here. Let's borrow this icon from here and place the icon. Select all of them and put the icons and then move it with your arrow key to the right. Use your right arrow key to move it to the right. And let's update these colors to this. Update this one as well to this color. I hope you guys are following. You can always go back and rewatch again. Now, this is primary, right? Primary blue, and it has an icon. So this one has icon. This one has icon. That's the only thing that we're changing here. You can see button, primary blue, it has icon. Then you can see this one. You can see this one, primary orange. Oh, we made a mistake here. We need to put slash here. We need to update it on that one too. This one has an icon, so we want the one that has an icon. Let's update this. There is a mistake here. If we don't, okay, it's correct, but I'm not sure it's correct here. No icon, yeah. So we need to put slash here to correct it. Now, the same thing applies here. This one has, this one is blue, secondary button, but it has an icon. So we use icon, right? The same thing applies to this one. This one is secondary and it's orange and it has an icon. So we're going to remove the no and have this. So now we have our variation. But if you look at it, you can see that these ones are longer than these ones. But we want to have like the same button, like want the buttons to have the same width, right? So what we're going to do is to update the width of this one. What's the size of this one? 152. So we're just going to update the width by just dragging 152, 152, and update, and then just center the elements. The same thing applies to this one. Just drag it so you can edit it because it's on hot content. Center it and then change the width to 152. And voila, we have this. So I'm just going to, yeah. Now that you've created these buttons here, remember, we have three properties for these variations. We have the primary, we have the blue, and we have just select everything. Instead of clicking on create component or just clicking this, just come down to this and create component sets. It's going to create a button component that has different variations. And when you look at these properties here, when you look at these properties, let me grab it. When you check the properties from the sidebar, you can see that this one is saying primary blue, property one is saying primary, property two is saying orange, and this. So we need to update the properties to their exact functions or their exact features. So I'm just going to select the property one is button type, right? Let's call it button type. Then this one, the second property is color, right? The second property is color, and the third property is has icon. Let's just call it icon. Now, if I select this element and bring it out and I see that, oh, I don't want to use this primary, I want to make it orange and I want to make it icon, you can see it's just updating by itself. And if I use it in any place in my design, I can always change the property. Let's say the client said that, oh, I don't want this orange color. Can you change it to another color? What I would suggest is select all of them and go to where there is orange, like the orange, and then update it to the color that the client wants. Let's say the client wants the color to be red. Why is not updating the color to be red? Yeah, I'll just change it, and you can see the button has changed. Wherever it is, let's say this button, it has changed. And I will also need to update the name from the property place. Let's say this is the color that the client wants. You can see it has changed because these are also components, but different variations of that component. So I'm just going to undo the changes I made and then come back to this. Now that is it for variants. We've discussed components, we've discussed variants, right? We discussed variants. Now, coming back to interactive component, how do we create interactive components? So how do we create interactive components? Let's say you have this design. Let's say you have this button. This is a variant of, an instance of these ones, right? Let's say you have these buttons and you want a situation. Let's constrain this to the middle. Let's go back and constrain. Let me undo that. Let's do it from the parent element. Select everything and then constrain them to the middle. All right. So let's say in a situation like when you have these buttons on your design and you want a situation where a user hovers on this and it changes to this, or maybe hovers on this, and when a user hovers on this one, it changes to this, or maybe when a user hovers on this, it changes to this. How do we create that? That's where interactive component comes in, right? So how do we create that? You use your prototyping feature to do that. Use your prototyping feature to do that. Just okay, depending on the action you want. You want when a user clicks on this to when a user clicks on this, it will change to this, right? Let's see how it comes up. Let's prototype this one as well, and let's prototype this one as well, and let's prototype this as well, and then present. Let's present the screen. Let's present the screen. So you want a situation where a user clicks on this, it changes to the, you can see it has changed to that. Or do you want a situation where, let me refresh, where a user hovers on this? So based on the interaction you want, you can then prototype its function here. So I want a situation when a user hovers, I don't want it to be a click action. So I change it from click to hovering. You can try out this interaction what's it called, properties to see the one that feels right for you. But I'm not sure a user needs to drag a button. A user can click a button over on a button. That's if the user is interacting with your design on platform that allows clicking. Or if it's on mobile, there is no hover on mobile. We're just using this as an example, right? So let's say when we want to user when a user hovers, the button changes to this one, right? Button changes to this one. When a user hovers, the button changes to, when a user hovers, right? When a user hovers, you can also alternate it. Maybe is this one that you use when you, but you can also change the interaction, but I want to use the primary buttons to do that, right? It's the same thing. So once the situation where the user hovers, you can see I don't have to click, just hover, and the interaction comes in. Now let's go back to where we started. You remember when we started, we had like 6 different screens to represent this same interaction, right? When a user clicks on the first button, it changes to this one, the same second button, the same with others, right? Down to the last button. And we have 6 screens. What are we in a situation where we want to achieve it? Now we have a component, like we have like our interactive component. Interactive component helps you. One of the things that it does so is that number one, it helps you to create interesting designs, right? Because you get to animate some element, give some element some form of life, right? Makes your element come to life. Also helps you to reduce the number of screens that you would have used if you wanted to create the same type of interaction, right? So let's say we want this button in different places now. Let's say we have like 5 of these buttons in our design. Let me do this. You can actually, the interaction can actually go on without you having to duplicate this screen several times, or this screen without you having to have maybe like different duplicates of this particular screen. If you go back now, you can see we only have one screen representing that, and you can see that all the interactions are actually going on. This what's it called? Components are not just applied to buttons alone. And you can see how we're able to like, you can see how I was able to like use it here, right? I was able to use it on my intro, what's it called, screen. And also you will see how we are able to like use it. See how I'm able to use the interactive, what's it called, component feature here. When I click on this, but when I click on this card, it opens up to more cards for me to see the details in that card. This one as well, you can see it opens up the details for me to see the what's it called, content of the card. This was achieved using the interactive component feature, right? So if I go to the next screen now, I want to, let me fit to screen. If I go to the next screen now, sorry, what is going on? I don't know what is going on, but let me just click when I click on it, right? If I go to the next screen now, you can see there are also so many interactions going on here. All these were achieved with interactive components. Now, the next step is for us to, with this knowledge that we have, with this understanding of interactive components, right, want us to create this, because this is the main reason why we're learning. For us to create interesting designs, not just button element. This can be applied, interactive components and variants, the knowledge of it can be applied to series of design elements. Let's say you have maybe like a toggle feature. Let's create a toggle button, and you want to have maybe like a toggle when a user, like toggle function, when a user clicks on it, it changes to on and off, right? Let's say this is your the on feature. I'm going to, let's draw the circle here and then make the circle a little bit bigger. Just center it and put it by this. Let's say this is off. Let's call it off, right? I just, oh, this is now, okay, sorry. Let's reduce the width. Yeah, this is a, let's use this as our fake, what's it called? Our fake toggle button. Oh, let's call it our fake toggle button. Let's flip right. Yeah. So when a user toggles, this one changes to, let's give it this color. Maybe this one changes to white, right? Let's say this is on. When it's on, you can use it to create the interaction the same way you created for this button. So I just select both of them because I've named them. This one is up and this one is on. I select both of them and create a component set. So instead of me having different screens for it, what I just do is to have this. Let's come back to or we have, let's come back to, let's use this. I don't want to start presenting again. So let's say we have this in different places in our design. We have this, we have this, we have this, right? Let's say we have this. And when we go back to our design, let's go back to this. We can just, oh, we've not given it an interaction. Not give it an interaction. Let's give it an interaction. Want a situation where when a user clicks on it or taps on it, it goes to this one. When a user taps on this one as well, it goes back to this one. So let's see how it goes. So when a user taps on it, oh, it didn't change, something is definitely wrong. So let me, because I flipped, so it's not giving me the functionality I want. I want it to move to this. Let's just move it here. So want a situation where the user clicks on this, you can see it goes to this, goes to this, goes to this. The same thing applies to this one. You can turn it on and off. These are all achieved with the function of, with interactive component. You can see the components is interactive because you have prototyped it to interact with each other, right? Now, let's come back to the big game. With the knowledge of this, what's it called? The knowledge of variants, interactive components, and component itself, let's create this particular screen. So you can see here, this is the component for this screen. On this first screen, this is the one you are seeing here, this first screen. You can see it's normal screen here. And when you check the prototype, I prototype that when a user hovers on this one, it changes to this one. When a user hovers on this, changes to this one. When a user hovers on it, changes to this one as well. I would have done it the same way I did this button, but I didn't want to have that. I just want to have it like this so that it will be simplified enough for you to actually practice and check it out on your own, or maybe use it in your design. Like, I'm really looking forward to the amazing things you guys will create with this. So let's start. First, we have two images and we have the text, right? I'm just going to, let's quickly like duplicate the elements that we have here. I think I'm going to upload this on Figma community for those that want to practice along with me with this same file. So I'm just going to take this, call it desktop. Let's call it home. We just call it home, right? Let's just duplicate the elements that we have here. We have our color. Let's just select the color and maybe give it black little. Yeah. And we have something like these shadows here. So let's draw our circles and maybe give it a color of let's try another color here and try this one, give it like blue. Yeah, and then give it a blur effect, blur detect the layers, and just blur it to we are satisfied with the blur. Then bring it in, bring the colors in, and maybe like duplicate them. I want this one to overlap. I want them to kind of overlap with each other. and then reduce the opacity. We can just reduce the opacity to 20, and this one maybe like to 20 as well. And we have this. And let's put the two. You can see that they are selected. I just place them in a frame and then drag the frame, and drag the frame. This will help you to basically move the elements anywhere you want. So I'm just going to have this. So we have this what's it called, mesh stuff going on here. And let's just copy this, guys. You guys can create text and buttons, right? So let's just copy this one and have it here while we have it. Now, when you look at this place, we have these images at the top. So let's get this. You have this. So how I created this was basically getting the logo. You can type your getting the logo. Let's get the logo. You can type your text, right? I type the text, then turn them into auto layout, like the text. I had to type, sorry, let me copy one of them, type the text, right? Duplicate, like fill them with the right content, select and turn it them to auto layout. So like 48, right? We're good to go. Make sure you check the auto layout feature if you don't know how to use auto layout. So I'm just going to select both of them and then center them. And I'm going to add what's it called, padding left and right to this, and then padding top. Can make it 16, and then add color. Let's make it white, and then reduce the opacity of the white to just give us a nice blend to the background. And I'm going to add grid layout grid here. Let's make it 12 because this is desktop, and margin you can do 18, right? One do 18. So I'm just going to, the reason I'm doing this, I'm not using auto layout, this just for us to create it quickly and fast. If you notice, I added auto layout and I want this particular one to stay by the right, and so is unpacked. The what's it called, auto layout feature is unpacked. Auto layout alignment is unpacked. I want it to be space between. This will enable it to spread between the design, and we have this. So let's give it auto layout 16, corner radius of 16, and voila, we have our first section of design. If I turn out this thing now, let's see how it's looking. This one is kind of now looking more beautiful than this, but let's continue. Now we need images, these three images that when we hover on it, it goes to this. So we're going to get our image. Let's just duplicate the images that we have here. Let's just duplicate. So for quick let's just duplicate the images. I'm using what's it called? I'm pressing down on Alt and dragging the images out, right? But you can download your images as well and use them. So these are the images that we have here. These are the images that we have, and want to give them a frame. Like these are just image. If you check, you can see that just image. I want to give this image a frame so that I can actually like zoom in the element, because when you hover on it, you can see that the image inside actually, like on this card, this one is zoomed, and at the same time showing on the background. You can see this one also zooms in, this one also zooms in. That's the same what's it called, feature I want to achieve here. When a user hovers on it, it will zoom in. So let's call it image, right? And then I duplicate it for this one. I duplicate it for this one and then zoom in the image. Sorry. I duplicate it for this one, go to the image and zoom in the image. Because the reason it's showing like this is because this one is, want to put it on clip content so that it will hide everything, and also put corner radius of probably 16, right? And this one as well, 16. You can see. Corner radius is this. Oh, 24. Let's do 24 for this one as well, 24. And voila, we have it. So when a user hovers, this image zooms into this lady, right? When a user hovers and it zooms into this one. So we have this for this, and I'm just using the most simplest approach so that you can actually understand the logic behind it. This one as well, we're going to give it a frame, right? Click and give it a frame, right? And then the frame, turn it into, what's it called? Corner radius to 24, and clip content That's it for this one. This is the normal view, and this is the hover view. So let's go in and go and zoom the image as well. Let's go in and zoom the image. And if you notice on this one, when we hover, you can see that this image has an outline of white. Let's give it an outline as well. Let's give these ones outline. Select both of them, give them stroke, right? And maybe like make it 8. Want the stroke to be inside and make it white. Just give it a natural, something beautiful feel. The same thing applies to this one. Same thing we did to others. We said right click and make it a frame, and then click content, make the corner radius 24, right? And then we have the normal view. This is the normal view for this. And then this is normal view for this. And then duplicate it. And then we have the overview. Remember, we just select the image and then zoom it in, like to make you feel very natural. Let's zoom it in like this, and then give it what's it called, stroke, and then white. So now that we've done that, we're going to name them. Name this one as well. Name this one image. You don't want to use frame 1, 2, something, something. Let's call it image. I'm going to copy. I want to give all of them the same name. Copy this one as well. Give it a name. Copy this one and give it a name. So we have these images now. We have these images, the normal view for all these images. So this one, the normal view is this one. This one, the normal view for it is this one. And this one, the normal view for it is this one. I'm going to select them and turn them into auto layout. We call them images as well. Turning them into auto layout by pressing Shift A to turn them into auto layout. Or you just right click. If you want to turn auto layout, just right click and you see add auto layout. There is auto layout. Because it's already on auto layout, it's telling me to remove, but I don't want to remove it. So I'm just going to bring them in here. I'm just going to bring this in, and we have the first set of image, which is this first screen. We have the image here. This is our first screen. We've designed it and it's looking cool. Yeah. So now we're going to duplicate this. Want a situation where when a user clicks on this image zooms in and the background as well changes. So we are going to be taking this. Let's grab our images here. Let's grab our images here and then take this and let's copy this and paste it here. Let's replace this image with this one. So Control Shift R to replace. I've replaced it and you can see that it's zoomed in. So once a situation where a user clicks on this first one, it zooms in and the background actually also changes to this image. So I'm just going to copy this image as well, right? And then paste it here, paste it on this background. Just check, make sure that it goes into the background, then take it to the bottom part of your layers. Make sure that every other thing is on top of the image. You can see all the elements, all the other elements, both the what's it called, the mesh is also on top of it. What's it called, is behind all these elements. Now, when you notice, you see that we have like really, really poor contrast. The image is showing, but we can't see every other element. How do we solve that? We're going to reduce the opacity of this image so that we can allow other elements to shine. If you check the design here, you can see that the image is visible, yeah, and the other elements is also visible. You can see them very well. So we need to consider that, but it is very, very important in our design. So we can make it maybe like 20, 20 ps, reduce the opacity to 20 ps. You can see now that we've reduced the opacity. The image is visible. The other elements are also visible as well. So we're going to duplicate this screen, right? We're going to duplicate this screen. Remember, duplicate this score. Let's just, let's just delete it and duplicate the first one. Let's be using the first one so that it's easier for us to change the element. Now, when a user clicks the second one, it changes to this one. So now that we have the second one, the middle one, so we take this image, this one that we also zoomed in, and then replace it, Control Shift R to replace, and then take the image as well. I'm going to also copy it out. you can actually have these images separate instead of just copying it. And the same thing we did for the first one, we take it to the bottom of the layer, make sure that every other layer is behind every other layer. Just take it off. Yeah, it's behind every other layer. You can see that it's behind every other layer, but the contrast as well is really, really poor. So I'm just going to do the same thing and reduce it to 20px. You can see the image is visible, and this one is when you check the design, you can see that it's also very visible and the user can see it properly. Now let's duplicate this first one again, the one with plain background, and do the same thing that we did for this one. Take the active image, which is the third one, right? And replace Ctrl+Shift+R to replace it, and then get the image and then put it to at the, like to the bottom. There's put it behind every other element in that frame. Make sure that it's inside the frame, and then increase the size just like we did for others and align it properly. You can see the contrast is also poor. Reduce the opacity to 20px, and you can see we have our variants. We have different designs for this. So now in this situation, if we do it like this, it's not going to really work. It's just going to be, if we do it like this, we're just going to be having different screen, like this 5 screen, but we don't want it. I want a situation where we just have this 2 screen, or this just 1 screen, and we'll just be interacting with it in our prototype. So what you're going to do is to select all these images. Don't mind the fact that they are called home. If we are just using it for sample, just select all of them and then create component sets. So now that we've created a component set, what the next step is for us to prototype it so that we can achieve the interactive component feature, right? Just to prototype, we want a situation where we click on this one, it goes to this. We click on this one, it goes to this. I mean, we hover on this one, it goes to this. We hover on this one, it goes to this. We hover on this. The same thing applies to the 3 of them. Once in a situation where we are on any screen, it goes to each of them. Or let's just try one and see how it comes out. So we'll click on this, it goes to this one. Let's put it on hover, not click. Let's put it on hover so that you can always go back to the default screen, which is this one. We hover on this one. I'm using hovering. We hover on this one, it goes to the second one. We hover on the third one, it goes to the fourth one, right? We hover on this, it goes to the fourth one. So now that we have our interaction set, I'm just going to drag this, right? Just drag it out. And then we create our screen. Remember, this is our component. We create our screen. Let's get our desktop screen, this one, yeah, and call it home page. Let's call it home page. Oh, sorry. Let's call it home page, and then drag our element because they are the same size. You don't really need to align anything. And let's present and see how it comes out. So now we have our element. You can see that it's different from the other one, but it's showing full screen. So I'm just going to make it fit to screen. Yeah. So it's showing at full screen. I want to see, you can see it's showing. You can see it's working properly. If you notice, you can see that this one is kind of doing as if it's coming out of the frame and then it's going back. This one. The reason is because we didn't clip content for this. We didn't clip content for the first image. We didn't clip content, so we're going to clip the contents for the first image and see. You can see we've corrected that, and you can see how beautiful this animation feature is. It's really not animating the way I want it to animate because I want it to be something natural, that this background, this image will fade in, the images will fade in gradually from the background. Well, I believe you guys will be able to do amazing designs with the knowledge of this interactive component stuff. Thank you so much for staying through to the end of this video. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with folks, and also always come back to the channel to see when I post new videos. In our next video, we're going to be talking about component properties. We're going to be discussing it in detail. So don't forget to always check to see when I have new videos uploaded. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.